Welcome to the show. We are Jill and Tony Maas with The Amazing Life. And if you're just joining us for the first time, we live full-time out of our Grand Design Solitude, 3740 BH fifth wheel. We have been on the road for 3.5 months. And we're just kind of sharing our journey. So come along for the ride. So our last episode was about just going from idea to realization, just making it happen. After we got on the road on May 2nd, we stayed in Iowa for a couple of weeks just to kind of tie up some loose ends and spend some more time with family before hitting the road after that. And again, our first year is dedicated to family. So we spent the first 2 weeks at a campground called Little Bit of Country in Strawberry Point, which was about like 30 minutes from my parents. It was a great first site for our shakedown trip. Had full hookups. It was actually a pull-through site, which we kind of love pull-through sites.
Yes.
Very
Yes,
reasonable.
I will agree with that. So,
Very reasonably priced. So we were in Strawberry Point for 2 weeks. The first week there was very chaotic. I mean, as you could imagine, just settling in and shaking it down, figuring out how it all runs without being hooked up to my parents' electric, like having to hook up septic, having to hook up water, running the water, 50 amp power.
getting the water heater going. There's a switch on the outside of the water heater as well, for those of you that don't know, but just turning it on the inside isn't enough. There's a switch on the water heater itself, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just figuring out the camper itself and how it all works. Just kind of like figuring out a new house, figure out all the light switches and air conditioner and how it all runs, and then how you want to live in it. So the first week, in addition to figuring all that out, we also had some loose ends to tie up. We still had some furniture that when we moved into my parents', we didn't know which rig we were gonna purchase. We had thought a toy hauler, and then we thought if we bought a toy hauler, we might be able to keep the couch, or we might be able to take out the old couch and put in our couch from our house. Just lots of ideas that we really didn't know what was going on or what we were gonna do. So there was a lot of furniture yet that we still had to sell. And just other things that we didn't need that we took to my parents, knowing that we were only going to need it while at my parents and then needing to sell it later. So we did a lot of stuff, selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace, meeting up. Because we were in Strawberry Point, we had to drive further to get stuff for meetups to be able to sell the stuff. It was just a lot of back and forth, just a lot of being on my phone, and I hated it. I'm not one who likes being on my phone a whole lot, so to have to be on my phone and make connections with people to get that stuff sold was really challenging, in addition to taking care of 3 kids.
Well, and we're kind of down to the onesie twosie type small dollar stuff at that point. We'd already sold all of our big stuff that had a higher dollar point, so after that first week,
I was done.
Yeah.
I was done. So the rest of it, we either donated it, or my mom took care of and given it to people that she knew could use it. So after that first week, it was just kind of like, I can take a deep breath. Now let's really figure out what this lifestyle is all about. So we found Osborne State Preserve, I think is it's called. I just took the boys and we just spent the day there. We didn't have a timeline. We didn't have to, fit it in within a certain amount of time. So we just went and walked and explored, and
it was
we
during
just
the week, so
went with it. It was quiet. We were the only ones there. The keeper was able to, there was at one point, he let the boys tell him where to place peanuts for the bear, and he went in and placed peanuts. Then we got to watch the bear find them all. So that was really fun, and we really enjoyed it. And just getting basically doing school and having conversations with the keeper. He was able to just have conversations with us and tell us about the animals and their habitats and kind of where they came from and what their stories were. And it was just fun learning about them and watching the wolves try and chase him on the gator to go back to the office. And it was just, I guess it was something that the wolf did every single time that he drove by on the gator, was try and race him. So it was just fun listening to the stories, and it just kind of allowed us to just be in the moment.
So while you were doing that, I was breaking in my internet for work situation. So we've got a mobile router from a company called Insty that allows us to plug in 2 cellular SIM cards and for internet connectivity. And so I was breaking that in and working using just cell data for my internet for work, and trying to get used to that, and using my standing desk here in the camper, which is kind of on the other flip side of where we're sitting right now, and getting used to that whole environment. And it didn't even tell my boss that we had started working remotely, and nobody noticed. So that's a good thing. That's what we were hoping for, and we had great connectivity, and it's a great product. So it just was getting used to that whole environment and working out a few kinks here and there, but nothing major at all.
So yeah, that week went to the state preserve. We also checked out a couple parks that we hadn't been to. We had some campfires with family that came over and visited. Found a cute local coffee shop just on the road from the campground, and just really enjoyed that last week before setting sail.
The campground owner was great. He saw that we needed some 2x12s. We were just going to put it on gravel, but he said, well, with this gravel, it'll sink into the mud if it rains. And so he went and cut us some 2x12s for our 6 jacks, and was super helpful getting things set up. And the only thing about that was that when we did auto level, it did pull the wheels off the ground on one side, and the owner thought we should be fine with that. He'd seen a lot of people do that and not have any issues, but I just, through everything I had heard from people, and just with the weight of our rig and that we were going to be full-time, I didn't trust that, and we didn't trust that it was going to be okay for the long term. So we actually hitched back up again, moved it forward and moved it back enough to get some of our additional leveling blocks under the wheels so that they weren't sitting off the ground when we went and auto leveled again. So absolutely love the auto level systems. I don't have to try and figure it out myself what level means. And but playing those games, usually, sometimes here at our current campground, we had to hitch up and move a little bit to make sure we could get all our slides out, and so, but that's all going pretty good as well. So, but that first time was, do we hitch it up and move it a foot and move it back again and then unhitch again? And
and one of the things I think we definitely learned from that experience was, while the camp owner had great intentions and was super kind, that in the end, it's our rig, it's our money, it's our home, that we're the ones taking the risk. Everybody's got an opinion, everyone has advice, but in the end, you have to make the best decision that you are comfortable with. And for us to leave the tires off the ground was not okay. So we hitched back up, we put leveling blocks beneath the wheels, and it leveled just fine. So, but that was what we were comfortable with, and everybody's different. So that's one thing we've learned with this lifestyle. Everyone does things differently, and that's totally okay. That you just have to find your comfort level, and I'm sure over time it's gonna change. After we left on the 14th of May, and we went to
Lake Neshonoc in West Salem, Wisconsin.
We chose Lake Neshonoc because it was in our stomping grounds. It was where we're from, where we met and grew our family. It was home. So we wanted to go back and hang out with friends and say hi. We had been in Iowa for 8 months prior to that. So we wanted to go back and just see everybody and be back in familiar territory. And there's a couple campgrounds in the area, and we chose Lake Neshonoc because it was part of our 1,000 Trails collection, which, if you're not familiar with 1,000 Trails, it is a membership program that you can sign up. They have campgrounds all throughout the United States.
By region, so you pick which regions you want to be included in your plan, and you pay a little bit extra for more regions. And then they also have a trails collection, which is a new set of campgrounds kind of spread out across the country that you can add that collection on as well. And Lake Neshonoc is part of the trails collection. But we had added that to our membership when we bought it, and we were able to book. So we stayed at Lake Neshonoc for 2 weeks and didn't pay anything, and basically just paid for our annual membership with that one stay.
Yeah.
So it was pretty awesome. And it's a nice campground, other than having to back into a spot that was a very tight fit, and first time backing the camper into anything like that, so it probably took us about an hour with multiple tries, moving back and forth, and
Lots of frustration.
And yeah, but it was a tighter spot, but it fit. We just had a concrete pad on one side and the power pole on the other side, and then a tree right behind us that ended up being about a foot behind the camper. And so it was just, but we got in there.
Might I say, we were not laughing at that time, but now looking back at it, and it is comical.
Thankfully, there were no campers across the road from us, so if we needed to pull forward and straighten things out and then back a little bit, we could do that. And I think we actually got to the point where we were unhitched and realized our bunkhouse slide was not going to make it out, so we had to hitch back up again, move it over a foot, and then unhitch
Good
again.
times.
Yeah, so we're still married though, so that's a good thing. So
Yes. So we stayed at Lake Neshonoc for 2 weeks, and it was a busy 2 weeks. It was like every day we were meeting up with somebody, or somebody was coming over, or something.
it was exhausting. But it was wonderful, but it was exhausting too, because just trying to fit all of that engagement into 2 weeks, it was just tough.
Yeah.
But it was super nice for all the friends we were able to meet up with. We did really appreciate it.
Yes, we loved getting together with everybody and then making time to fit us in, and I think it was really eye-opening to see the schedule shift, the mindset of having a schedule in Sticks and Bricks compared to living full-time traveling in a camper. We don't have a schedule to stick to other than Tony's work schedule and checking in and out of campgrounds. That, the most complicated our schedule gets is feeding kids. Yeah, so the first month between Strawberry Point and Neshonoc was very tough. A lot of great times and seeing friends and family and just learning how to be together and dependent on each other and not everybody else. It was eye-opening in a lot of ways, in good ways. Like, this is my family, I should be dependent on my family. And so it was forcing us to kind of reconnect, which was wonderful. And then at the same time, it was also very hard. You go from being in a Sticks and Bricks, whether it was at my parents' or duplex or the house, where if I needed a break, I could go into the bedroom, close the door, kids would be entertained in the playroom or whatever, they had space and it was all child-proofed.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that in the camper. That took a lot more communication and figuring things out.
Because I'm working too.
Yeah. But honestly, if we still had the Sticks and Bricks after that 1 month mark, I'm pretty sure I was ready to throw in the towel. I was done. I was frustrated. Laundry was an event. Now I actually had to, I couldn't just throw a load in, go off and do something else in the house, go back, switch it, and fit it in. Like, now I actually had to make time to do laundry, and usually with boys in tow, that I had to take all 3 kids and do laundry. But the more we do it, the easier it gets. What else was there? For one, the kids were adjusting too. So not only were we adjusting to this lifestyle and being forced together, but so were the kids. And some days it went really great and they played awesome together, and some days it didn't. So it was just a huge learning curve on figuring out how do we do this life together. And now we're 3.5 months in, again, very new to this lifestyle still, but making the most of it. One other thing that I really learned was how much faith I put in other things like the house. We had some weather, as we're having now, where the storms, wind, a lot of rain, where in a home we had a lot of faith that the house would protect us, or we could go in the basement if there was tornado or severe weather. Whereas in a camper, you're kind of completely exposed. We don't have a basement to go to, that if there is a tornado warning, we have to go find shelter elsewhere. If there's a lot of rain or thundering and lightning, it's louder in a camper. You have thinner walls in a camper.
Yes. Although I think we've only had all 3 boys in bed with us, once or twice because of storms. But
yeah. But it reminded me that I not to put my faith in things, even if it is a house. Even this isn't perfect. It is growing my faith significantly, and forcing me outside of a box.
It's done that for me too. I mean, I'm hesitating with my words because I think I've struggled quite a bit with settling in and having that faith and patience and grace for myself and for others, and just getting comfortable, I think. And I think it's related to other struggles I've had with my job and those kinds of things, but I'm getting there, and that's where us talking about it and communicating and sharing, and me not just trying to bottle it up inside like I do and like most guys do. And
he's a number 4 on the Enneagram, if you're familiar.
So what does that mean? I just keep it all inside and try and figure it out until it blows up or something, basically? Yeah.
Pretty much.
We were still at the point where we weren't in the quote-unquote wilderness yet. So There was still some feeling of having a safety net around us. And so I think that helped us feel a little more comfortable, even though we were still in that camper. We were still within 10 miles of where we lived, and we still had a huge support network around, and family was only a couple hours away and all that stuff. So I think that helped, but it was still a tough time for everybody getting used to that.
There was a safety net. At the same time, it was also accountability that we said we were going to do something wild and crazy and sell everything and move into a camper, and a month in we back out.
Yeah.
It didn't make me feel good, so I knew we were just going to push through it. Like, I felt like a failure if we were going to back out.
Well,
so there was accountability in that.
And you said we had to give it a year, right? Because
I say 3 years.
Well,
it took us 3 years
yes.
to get on the road.
Yes.
We should be on the road at least 3 years.
We got to be able to do at least one, because we got to make it till her sister's wedding next April, and all of that's, make a full winter cycle through and get back up to Iowa, and then wash, rinse, repeat, go a different direction, and see where we can take it.
Although I feel like, this year being dedicated to family, that there's still structure in it. It's not complete freedom.
Yeah.
Because
we're struggling to find we were struggling to find campgrounds in the cities where we wanted to go visit family, that kind of thing.
That we had such specific locations that we wanted to go to, versus just being able to call around, like say, hey, let's just drive and see where we go, and find a campground when we get tired of driving.
Yeah.
Or there be something random that we want to go see, touristy or not, and then find a campground near that, but it be on a whim, which I think is where I would like to get to. You know,
Yep.
this year is family, and who knows what next year's gonna bring. So yeah, I think for sure a year. I don't think a year is enough.
No, I don't think so either. And I think we'll gradually we have been getting more settled into it and getting used to it and figuring out what the transition to a new campground is.
Sorry, there's a little Jackson. We did start a notebook with things that we wanted to do at each location that we visited. Just because there is so much to do, and I mean, we can find so many things. And sometimes we can even find ourselves getting caught up in just staying at the campground. There's usually just a lot to do, whether it be like the swimming, the walking, boys riding their bikes or their scooters or going to the playground. It's so easy to get caught up in doing those things that we wanted to be more intentional. So we would make a list of the things that we wanted to do at each location that we went to. So like we didn't really do it at Strawberry Point. It wasn't something that I started probably until we got to Lake Neshana, because I knew that there was going to be so much we wanted to do. So the boys each came up with some things that they wanted to do. There was a pump track up on the bluffs that we really enjoyed riding bikes on. You know, I wanted a girls' night with some of my best friends in the area, and date night. We did a day date, I guess.
At the laundromat.
At the laundromat. Other friends that we wanted to get together with, restaurants we wanted to eat at, going to church at our home church was on the list. So yeah, making a list definitely helped us to be intentional and stay focused on what we wanted to do versus leaving and saying, oh shoot, we didn't do that, or we didn't do that, and then regretting it. So that helped us a lot. Yeah. And then I take that list, and at each location that we go to, I write it on one of our chalkboards we have when we walk in the door. So it kind of helps it be out and visible for us to see and keep up with. So be sure to subscribe and follow our journey.